Hi, this is Dovid Orlofsky, and welcome to the Parsha in 5. And we start a new Sefer Vayikra. And the Latin term that people use in English is Leviticus. We, of course, call it Vayikra. The Chazal refer to it as Torah's Kahanim. And this is an introduction to the concept of korbanos. And there is a very important Ramban right at the beginning of the parasha, wherein he brings a machlekes between himself and the Rambam as to what the purpose of korbanos are. Now, I've told this story before, I'm sure, but Parshas Vayikra is really the correct place for it. I heard this Reform and Orthodox rabbi discussing Tisha B'Av. And the fellow says to the Orthodox rabbi, do you think Tisha B'Av is still relevant today? And he says, yes, of course, because the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of senseless hatred, and we still have senseless hatred, so yes, of course it applies. He says, so you're looking forward to the rebuilding of the temple? And he says, yes, I am. With animal sacrifices. And you could hear him gasp, like gag. And he began to just fall apart and be like, well, I mean, of course, there are different views on this. I mean, there's one view that in the future it'll only be from the vegetable kingdom, but that's really a minority view. And I turned to the Reform rabbi. He goes, no, of course not. Animal sacrifices, ha, 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 yeah. And I heard this and I said, wow. But for the grace of God, so go I. And I realized that you can get stumped on a question, but if you then don't go back and think about it, you're going to have to deal with it all over again. And I sat down and I worked on it and said, what is it that I'm having a block? Where's the problem? And I realized there's something about slitting the throat of the little goat and catching its blood and then running barefoot through the blood to the mizbeach and throwing it on the side and cutting it open, taking it inside, washing it in a bucket. That is a little problematic for people. And I'm a Kohen, you understand? I have to say, when I think about it. So that means, as I always say, the hardest question to answer is the question that you have to answer for yourself. So I sat down to work at it on myself. You know, I used to teach in Orla Golan. More than once, a guy would say to me, I can give you an answer, but I can't do that little laugh that you do at the end. And that really closes the deal. I said, that's because the little laugh at the end shows that I actually believe what I'm saying. That's why, yeah. Anyway, sure enough, 6 months later, I was teaching a discovery, and a guy raises his hand and says, okay, Rabbi, what about animal sacrifices? Expecting me to gag. And I said, what about him? He didn't know what to say. So he says, well, it's barbaric. I said, why? He says, barbarians do it. I said, barbarians eat lunch. Do you eat lunch? Not everything that a barbarian does is barbaric. Well, you're killing animals. Are you a vegetarian? No. How do you think they get the meat? Think they go to a cow and say, hey, Elsie, could you spare a rib? Well, I'm not there when it happens. Oh, no problem. You can appoint a hit Cohen to take the cow out for you. You don't have to do nothing. And he was stuck because he never really thought about it. I said, let me rephrase your question. I could understand killing an animal for a positive reason, like me having a hamburger. Is there any positive reason to bring a korban? He says, yeah, I guess that's my question. I said, you're right. The word korban is likarev. In English, they say sacrifice. We're not sacrificing anything. We want to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we're bringing something to Hashem that has meaning. I'm offering up myself. That's why it's an animal. You don't really feel much of an emotional attachment when you slice that tomato, even though you see the blood dripping down. It's not the same thing. But you relate to an animal, and when you see that animal being slaughtered and brought on the Mizbeach, you say, that's me. I want to come so close to Hashem that I will bring myself. All of korbanos are there for one purpose, to be able to bring us close to Hashem. That's why it's a korban, likarev, to come close. And when we bring the korbanos and this whole, it's interesting when a little kid starts learning in Cheder, the first thing they teach them is Vayikra, because you start by learning about the Kedusha and the Kodshim that we bring, the holiness that comes from being close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we embark on this Sefer, it's going to be with an eye towards us creating that Kedusha. Though we have no Beis HaMikdash and we have no Korbanos, we can be that Korban and bring ourselves close to Hashem. Shabbos.